Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. On this edition, in segment number 2, we talk baseball as they get ready for the NAC North Division Tournament, most of which will be hosted at Capco Park with the exception of one game at MSOE. And we'll talk with senior infielder Drew Johnson. But at first, we talk Dak Sodi and being joined by one of the student workers in the Department of Athletic Communications, that being Megan Wendling. My name is Matt Menzel. Thanks for joining us as we are down to a couple of weeks left of Falcon Focus. A quick note, next week a special edition as we wrap up the 2020-21 school year, recapping the school year with the Director of Athletics, Dr. Rob Barnhill. But Megan, first of all, thanks for your time. And, one of the awards she gets is the fact that she is one of the Dak Sodi Student Workers of the Year. And what that means is Department of Athletic Communications Student of the Year. It's voted on by the various students that work within the Department of Athletic Communications. And Josh Dinkelman, Annalena Van Herky also receiving the accolade here for this 2020-21 school year. And then Mary Grace Kleinmark, she was named the newcomer of the year. And the student workers in stats, scoreboard, PA, social media, along with highlights, broadcast production, so on and so forth. All the students help put each sporting event on throughout the course of the year. And again, as mentioned, one of the awards you get is you get to be a guest on this show. And I guess you talk about, okay, you were honored with Dak Sodi. What's that mean to you?
I think it just, it's kind of nice to be recognized for the work that I do. I know that we all in this office do a lot of work, and we don't always, we do have time for it, obviously, but sometimes it takes away from the other things that we can do, so it is a sacrifice, and it's nice to be recognized for that. I love everybody that I work with. The atmosphere in this office is so comfortable. I really love this job.
We'll talk about the time commitment in a minute because especially this school year, man, was that put to the test for many, and it was a crazy school year with sporting events galore from January on. But how did you get involved, I guess, going way back? How do you get involved working with the CUW Athletic Communications Department?
So I actually had an interview for this job set up before I even got on campus my freshman year. I saw this job on, I think it was Handshake, because I knew that I was coming to school and I wanted to have an on-campus job because I figured that would be nicer than something off campus. And so I had an interview set up with Stephen Schauer and Jeremy Crawford, and then I interviewed like my first 2 days at school, and I was hired, and I've worked here ever since I came to Concordia.
So did you grow up playing sports? I guess what's your interest in sports? What made this job attractive for you?
So I have 3 older brothers, and the oldest one is 11 years older than me. So basically, since I was born, I had been around sports. They did basketball, football, baseball, golf, track. I went to a small school, so we didn't really have lacrosse, field hockey, hockey. We didn't have stuff like that, but we had the basic main sports. So I always grew up watching them, and then I played sports myself in high school and middle school. So yeah, just kind of always been around sports. Kind of wanted to be involved at college as well.
What sports did you play? What was your favorite sport?
So I played basketball and volleyball. I did track in middle school. Probably my favorite sport was just basketball. There's a lot of freedom in basketball, I guess, and just it's more about the chemistry of the team. And so that's what I really enjoy about that.
One of your main roles, or at least one of the jobs they put you on mainly, is you've been one of the statisticians, keeping stats at a number of the sporting events, and that's one of a few roles that you've had. But I guess when you look at that particular job, keeping stats, did you have any experience prior to it in doing anything like that?
Yeah, so in high school, I did take stats as well for some volleyball and basketball, but that was about it. I guess I did softball when I was in 6th grade, so I kind of had experience with that, but really not a ton. So this has definitely been a learning experience because I've statted basically, I think, every sport that we have here, so I've had to learn a lot.
No, absolutely, and it's you talk about stressful too with some of the sports and the quickness and trying to be as accurate as you can possibly be. What for you is the biggest challenge when you look at stat keeping? What is the biggest challenge?
I think probably the biggest challenge was that there were all the new sports, and obviously you need to be as accurate as you can be, and so that's very stressful. Just trying to learn a new sport, sometimes on the fly, especially this year when we didn't really have a ton of preparation. So yeah, just having to learn on the fly and then make it accurate because it's important. So
how do you go about managing that stress? And I'm venturing to guess it's something that you've learned over time because you mentioned this year. Okay, so let's just use men's lacrosse as an example. Let's say one thing is done incorrectly. All of a sudden it becomes a domino effect because the stats are incorrect from that point on, but you got to keep going because the game doesn't stop. How do you go about managing that as opposed to just, throwing your hands up in the air and walking away?
That's definitely tough. For some sports, it's easier than others because some sports, one wrong move doesn't really dictate the rest of the game. Sometimes it does. I definitely have had to write down a lot of things on paper and then kind of edit when I can. Just trying to stay calm and remember that there's people that will help you. But yeah, it's definitely tough.
So outside of being a statistician, what are some of the other roles that you've taken on or at least have tried? Is there a role that you've never tried that you wish maybe you would have tried?
I'm not really the best like with camera work and all of that. So I did highlights I think once or twice. I operated a camera for the broadcast a couple times. I've done production truck. But that's about it. I don't really wish that I did anything else just because I don't think that's where my talents lie. To be honest, I don't think that that's really a strength of mine. So I think stats is kind of where I fit.
So I was going to say, so you knew since day one that stats was
Yeah.
the route you wanted to go and anything else is kind of icing on the cake, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about the last few months. I mean, it's been a crazy time with so many sports since January, essentially, and you get the fall season within the spring season, and then winter, everything else overlapping. How have you been able to manage all of this in a short amount of time, on top of the fact that you are a student?
Yeah, so this semester has definitely been tough and it's been very stressful. And to be honest, I wish I could have done more at times to help the office, but with the classes I was taking and a few other responsibilities on campus as well that took up quite a bit of time, I guess I just had to be honest with myself about what I could do and maintain that relationship with Jeremy, just to be honest with him as well and work out times to work that worked for both of us.
So what is your major?
I'm a pharmaceutical sciences major, but technically not going to get an undergrad degree. I'm actually starting pharmacy school next year. So.
Yeah, because from what I understand, you're done now with athletics after the last now couple of seasons. You've played a big role, or at least a role, in this school's, I guess, response to COVID-19. I guess explain that a little bit for those that are wondering.
Yeah, so I work in the pharmacy lab in the School of Pharmacy, and last semester we started doing mRNA surveillance testing just for Concordia, and then I didn't really help out with it much last semester, but my boss asked me to come back during winter break and help with that because he knew that we were going to be having a lot more sports, which meant a lot more testing. So I came back in the middle of January for that. And since then, we have started doing testing for 5 universities. So we have thousands of tests every week. And so I am in the lab, pipetting spit samples, running those sometimes 5 to 7 hours a day on top of school and other things. So, yeah.
Being that that's, an area of interest to you, does it surprise you at all? Here we sit, school year's about over, gotten through this 2020-21 school year. Does it surprise you that we've gotten to this point? Is it a plus in the sense that, okay, a few hiccups here and there, but it seems at least that things are starting to slowly kind of get back to some normality?
Yeah, it is kind of surprising, to be honest, when this first started last year, I didn't really know how long it would last. And when people were saying that we might not come back to school, I thought that was a little crazy. But then obviously I saw how it progressed. And so I think now from probably, if you would have asked me in August if we were going to be here, I would probably have said no.
From a major standpoint, what do you hope to do with that major one day? What's the career goal?
So I will be a pharmacist, and I don't really know where I plan to work. I'm not sure that research is where I want to be, but I think maybe something faster paced like a hospital or a setting like that.
To wrap it all up, okay, as mentioned, working in the athletic communications department for maybe future students, for students maybe on campus looking for a job, in your opinion, why would this be a good route to go if you have interest in sports?
I think this is a great route because, first of all, like I said, I love everybody in this office. It's a welcoming environment. It is stressful, but there are definitely people here that you can talk to that kind of will relieve some of that stress. And so it's just comfortable. It's fun to come to work. Sports are exciting always. And then you can kind of pick your own schedule, I guess. You're not working a lot usually during the day, so it doesn't really interfere with classes. So you can kind of pick and choose where you work and what you work. So it's very flexible if you have other things going on.
But if you don't work within 2 weeks, you get fired, from what I understand. Megan, I appreciate your time. Congrats on being
Thank you.
Dak Sodi Award winner. Again, along with Josh Dinkelman and Annalena Van Herk, who've been on our show in the past, representing men's volleyball and women's hockey. And also, congratulations to Mary Grace Kleinmark, who was the newcomer of the year for Dak Sodi. When we come back here on Falcon Focus, we turn our attention to baseball, talking with senior infielder Drew Johnson. Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. We turn our attention to baseball and talking with senior infielder Drew Johnson. And full disclosures, we sit here, we tape this. So as of right now, as we sit here, we don't know what the future looks like for the baseball team, but going into the weekend, a chance to win the NAC North Division regular season championship. And as of now, not officially, but almost official, have they clinched one of the 4 spots for the NAC North Division tournament, which mostly will be hosted at Capco Park with the exception of one game. Thank you, MSOE, hosting one game. That's on Friday. But with that being said, I guess to date, as we sit here, how would you kind of summarize the way the Falcon baseball season's played out?
So far, it's been pretty good. Other than a couple games, couple blemishes here and there, we've played really well. We haven't put together a full game, though, yet. Pitching, hitting, defense, we haven't really had one full clean game. So I think that's pretty promising for the future.
Is it fair to say, and especially in the North Division, obviously in the South, you have the likes of Benedictine and Aurora. They're really, taking care of business. Aurora being a top 25 team pretty much all year. But in the North Division, is it fair to say it's kind of been a free-for-all in that, I mean, you really never know what you're going to get one game to the next because it seems like anybody can beat anybody.
Yeah, especially in our division, there's just teams that are solid. There's no team that's kind of put themselves out there as the favorite yet, like you said, in the other division. But there's just teams that compete hard, compete against everybody else, and teams have been beating up on each other, and it's kind of been fun to see how it's played out so far this year.
You're one of the experienced guys on the Falcon baseball roster. Would you describe this team as a blend of youth and experience? Obviously, at this point now, everybody's got that experience, a couple of months into the season. But I guess going in, was it a nice blend? Was there more experience? Was it more youth? How would you go about?
So this year is really unique because last year we only played 5 games. Mm-hmm. So you pretty much almost have 2 sets of freshmen, with the freshmen coming in this year as well as the freshmen from last year. So it's helped that we have a lot of guys in that starting lineup that have been around, juniors and seniors that know the program, know the game of baseball a lot, and those younger guys are learning from them, and the future is pretty bright here. So
you mentioned right now one of the obstacles for the Falcons, trying to put that complete game together, and one thing that has certainly stood out in a number of games is this team can score, and we've seen some ridiculous scores across the board, not only for the Falcons, but again in that North Division. It seems like somebody's good for 10-plus runs every game. And you look, second game of the season, the Falcons beat up on Carroll 31-11. Then just on May 2nd, able to take it to Lakeland 25-13 in game 1 of a lengthy doubleheader. What was it like to play in those games where it just seemed like everybody contributed?
Yeah, you feed off each other. I know in that Carroll game we put up 12 in the first inning, and everybody was just rolling off each other. So one guy got a hit, you go up there with the confidence that you can get a hit. Our lineup is pretty loaded from top to bottom with power, and just with guys who put together good at-bats no matter what. So it's fun to be a part of that lineup, and we've been able to put up some runs, which is also fun.
Can it be hard I know not playing in the game, it's easy to say yes, but can it be hard playing in the game to stay focused in a game like that where it starts to get kind of crazy, silly with the score?
Sometimes it can, but I think we've done a good job of always pushing for more. Coach Morgan always talks about winning an inning or winning a half inning. So it doesn't matter the score. You're always just playing for that next half inning. You're playing to get that next out, next pitch almost mentality that we have. And I think that's helped us stay focused throughout those games.
You brought up Eddie Morgan back for his 8th season at the Falcons. Tell him what's it like to play for Eddie Morgan?
He's a player's coach. He'll get us fired up here and there, but he kind of lets us play, which I really like. He knows the talent that we have. He knows what type of team that we have, and he lets us go out and compete. But he gets us fired up, which is good.
Yeah, not afraid to get ejected either to fire up the troop, and it worked a couple of weeks back. Now, mention, okay, that 31-11 result against Carroll, second game of the year. You hit a home run in that 20-run win against the Pioneers. What do you remember about that long ball at Capco Park?
I know it felt good off the bat. They brought in a pitcher, and it was a lefty pitcher. Being a righty, it's easier to pick up the ball off the lefty, and he just threw a first pitch fastball, and I was able to connect with it, so it felt pretty good.
And it's not easy to hit a long ball at Capco Park. Certainly built more for extra base hits, and you've hit a couple of long balls in your career now at the home ballpark. When you look at Capco Park, what is it like to play at that venue? How does it compare, maybe contrast to other fields around the conference?
Well, coming off the lake, that wind is sometimes harsh for us. Keeps the ball in the air a little bit, but you can't go wrong with Capco. The turf is nice to field on. Ball rolls when you hit a gapper, and just good atmosphere. A lot of fans have been coming out, which is awesome for us, and we kind of feed off that energy. So,
how about the foul territory? I know you play usually first or third base. Third base this past weekend, but how does that come into play, being that there is so much foul territory? It seems like you can never give up on a ball.
Yeah, especially with the wind that blows, you've always got to be ready, and just kind of finding that fence when you get over there and then being able to react. But there is a lot of foul territory compared to a lot of other parks in the NAC. So,
do you see it? Now, you've been with this team now the last few seasons, and obviously the NAC overall tournament has been held at Capco Park in years past, and we mentioned most of the North Division tournament will be hosted there this upcoming season. But is there an advantage to that for the Falcons, being, okay, if you make the tournament, you get the opportunity to play at your home field, you kind of know how that ballpark plays versus a team that maybe has been here for 2 games a year?
Yeah, I think it's a huge advantage. And I just think, especially just being at your home ballpark, it gives you that sense of calmness. Just you've been here before. You've taken BP countless times on that field. You've seen the background countless times on that field. And then also just kind of staying at your house or in your own dorm. It's nice that you don't have to travel, stay in a hotel, so you get that comfort feeling.
Well, how much fun is it, okay? You look at the last couple of seasons, and it seems like this Falcon team is a tough out in the NAC tournament. Regardless of what seed, it seems like you guys are that team that's always, backs against the wall, finding a way to get it done, getting to that championship series, whether it be Aurora, Concordia, Chicago. How much fun has it been to be part of that tournament, in that tournament format, knowing that essentially you're playing for your season?
Yeah, the tournament is fun. It's definitely a lot more intense than the regular season. You're fighting for your life almost. You're fighting to get to that NCAA tournament. And it's just every pitch seems amplified, and that's fun. As a competitor, you love that feeling of this pitch could mean everything, and you're just locked in throughout the whole tournament.
As we sit here, you've had hits in your last 4 games, 6 of the previous 7. The list goes on and on. I guess individually, how do you feel your season's been going?
I started out pretty well. Hit a little lull there in the middle. Just not finding a lot of holes. Striking out a little too much for my liking. But overall, I've been pretty happy with the way I've gone at the plate, and just helping the team out defensively has been kind of my thing here for 4 years. So.
Well, you touched on it, okay, so you got a few games into the 2020 season before COVID canceled the duration of the spring, so a lengthier offseason. With that lengthier offseason, what was your mindset? What was your focus? What were your goals coming into this spring?
Yeah, I kind of liked the lengthier offseason. Just kind of got back to the roots of going to a ballpark near home, taking BP with the parents, with friends from back home. So I liked that, but it was definitely a sense of urgency getting back on that field. Being cut short, going to Florida 5 games, being ready to go to Arizona, and then being sent home for that amount of time was tough. So the sense of urgency, we felt it in the fall, and then when that first game hit in the spring, I think we were all amped up to go.
Mentioned you played some third base and first base. Do you have a preference one way or the other? What are some of the similarities or differences to playing the two corners?
Either way, I don't mind, but I think first base is a little bit easier just with the ball doesn't get on you as quickly. Obviously, you have to be locked in. Every throw is coming to you. You might have to make a pick here and there. But I like third base, the reaction. You get a little bit more baseballs over there. So
Well, hopefully by the time this episode comes out, the Falcons will be NAC North Division regular season champions and battling for a NAC North Division tournament title, and then the big overall two divisional tournament format that will follow the week after. But I guess as we sit here, without that having occurred yet, what are your highlights, or what maybe is your favorite memory so far from your time as a Falcon baseball player?
I really enjoy those spring trips. I know we didn't get one this year, which kind of stunk. But just going to Arizona, it's where you kind of get tight with the guys. You're able to hang out with them every day. We walked to a gas station down the street from the hotel, just hanging out by the pool, and then also competing in a lot of baseball games in warm weather. Can't really go wrong there.
Cannot complain. And obviously, in that weekend against Lakeland, couldn't complain about the 80-degree
Yeah.
weather either, which is rare for Capco Park, but the wind was certainly a story as well. Got to ask you about walk-up music before we talk about your days as a Kimberly papermaker. And as far as walk-up songs go, and we hear a bunch of them, I assume you guys get to choose what that walk-up song is. What goes into your walk-up song? What is your walk-up song, and has it changed over the course of this season?
It has. So as a freshman, you get picked. You get a song picked for you. So I got a song picked for me. It was pretty good. The seniors were nice to me when I was a freshman. Then I had a little country music. I'm a big country fan. And then this past year, I've done Taylor Swift, 22. My number's 22.
22, yep.
I kind of like it. The dugout loves it, so.
Are you superstitious at all that if you get in a slump of any kind that you got to start making changes like the walk-up song, or do you stick with something from the get-go?
I don't change the walk-up song. Maybe the bat here and there. Maybe change up the batting gloves. But no, the song's got to stay the same.
Well, you mentioned it too. Okay, the seniors are nice enough that they get to pick out the music for the freshmen. I got to help the freshmen make that transition, and so you guys help pick the walk-up music for any freshman that is incoming. You got the opportunity to do that this year. What do you go for when you do you look at a player's bio? How do you go about saying this song fits this guy?
Yeah, so we got to know some of the freshmen in the fall, and you just kind of go off their personality. I know Brooksy played really well this weekend. Played second base, and we picked basketball for him.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It's kind of the dugout loved it, which I like. But we thought he looked like Tyler Wall from the Wisconsin Badgers.
That's good.
So we picked basketball for him. So that was kind of a funny one. Other than that, you just kind of pick some funny ones or some ones that might get a laugh from the dugout or the crowd.
Well, speaking of basketball, you were a basketball player on top of baseball during your time at Kimberly High School, and as far as baseball goes, won a 2017 Division I state baseball championship, knocking off another tradition-filled program in Sun Prairie, 4-2. Your memories from that state championship run?
Yeah, that was a fun one. Our top player went down with a broken toe, so we were kind of light on pitching and shortstop, but we just kind of banded together, put together two good final games in there, and then the state championship. It was kind of a blur. You're kind of locked in, but that was a fun one. Still have the ring sitting in the basement, so that's always nice to look back at. And I always joke with the guys that I was able to win one here, so that was fun.
Well, you look at Kimberly High School, and you know this from being there, but it's known for winning. And you look at football and their ridiculous run for years of winning state championships, just winning games overall. You talk about baseball, basketball. So many of these teams have made great runs, boys or girls. So when you're around that kind of a culture, that winning, mentality, how does that help shape you into the athlete that you've become?
Yeah, the culture that they create there with the coaches is unreal. Coach McGinnis, my high school baseball coach, he's just a great guy. And it's more building you into a character instead of building you into a baseball player. Building you into a young man that's God-fearing and just a person that is going to be a good guy around everybody. So I think that helped me with this transition here of just coming in, being a guy that's going to work hard and just work harder than anybody else here.
So what brought you then from Kimberly to Concordia? What made Concordia the good fit?
Yeah, so Coach Morgan, he knows Coach McGinnis really well. It was just a good fit in the field. Education program's great here with Coach Kuiper. He's my academic advisor, which helps a lot.
Yeah.
Assistant baseball coach. and the field obviously helps, and just kind of proximity to home. My parents can come watch me play.
Is that the hope one day then to teach? Is that the route you're going?
Yeah, so I'll graduate on this Saturday, May 8th or May 7th, with elementary education major and a math minor. So
Exciting.
yeah, so I'm
Absolutely.
excited about
Busy times with that, and on top of baseball wrapping up as well. So to wrap up this interview, okay, we mentioned we assume as we sit here, I hope I don't need to get Sam done to do some editing and change what I said and have to dub over the voicing. But as we sit here, the Falcons should be preparing for the NAC North Division tournament at Capco Park for the most part this weekend. In your opinion, to wrap things up, if the Falcons are to have success and win the NAC North Division tournament title, what needs to happen? What are the keys to victory?
We just got to put together a complete game. We got to play defense like we know we can. On turf, it helps a lot with the bounces and stuff like that. But just playing a clean game defensively, and then just keep hitting like we've been hitting, and I think the cards will fall into place, and I think we'll have a good tournament run here.
Well, Drew, thanks a lot for your time. All the best with everything. And, the funny thing is, we sit here and as this airs and comes out, he will be a Concordia graduate as well. So a lot going on over these next couple of weeks as we wrap up what has been a very unique 2020-21 school year. And speaking of wrapping things up, next week we wrap up Falcon Focus, our final edition, as we wrap up the school year, talking with the Director of Athletics, Dr. Rob Barnhill. So you don't want to miss that. That comes out next Tuesday as well, half hour with the Director of Athletics. But we thank Megan Wendling and Drew Johnson for being our guests this week. We thank you for joining us. This has been Falcon Focus on CWFalcons.com.